Thank you very much. So welcome to the DPER 25-year anniversary webinar series. I do believe this is our second one called Meet the DPER Community. So this particular session is for those people who are interested in how it will feel like if you're on the program. So we're going to have a chance to talk to current students and alumni and teaching and supporting staff on the DPER. And we hope that this is going to be friendly conversation so everyone can feel like how friendly and how friendly we are. Basically, that's how it is. So we do have a set of questions prepared. So I'll ask each question to each participant here. But if you have any other question, feel free to post your question on chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature on Zoom. So I mean, it's a relatively small participant number that we have, so we may be able to turn on the video and then turn on the microphone as well, so everyone can have a chance to speak up, actually. All right, so we have 4 panel members. Before that, I'll introduce myself. I'm a lecturer in the program as well. My name is Kyungmee Lee. I'm going to organize and moderate this conversation for the webinar. And we have 4 participants here who's going to share their first-hand experience of learning and teaching on the program. So we have, let me try to find, we have Francine, who is the 3rd year, a PhD student. Hi, welcome. And we have Lucy, who has just started or who are still doing the 1st year of program. We have Jan, who has been teaching on the program, but I do believe, Jan, you already also graduate from this program as well. So welcome. And we have Alison, who is overseeing the program and supporting every single student that we have here. So it's great to meet you all, and welcome to, and thank you so much for coming to the session as the participants. So this session is recorded, and then video will be available on YouTube. So if you're a bit slightly shy, feel free to turn off your camera, because it may be, if you speak, it may be, you may have your face appear on the video. All right, so let's see how it goes. I have the very first question for our student, Francine. Are you ready? So. Great. So you just finished your part 1, and then you're doing your thesis study. So can you please explain and then share your own experience, how it has been for the past 3 years with us?
Yes. So I came from, I teach law at the Open University. That's my academic background, but I was a solicitor in practice for a lot of years before I moved into academia. So I wanted to do a doctorate because I just felt that was something that was really important to me. But I didn't want to do kind of the standard 100,000 word kind of doctorate, because frankly, I didn't think I'd ever survive or actually ever graduate. And what I was really attracted to this program was the kind of structure around the program. So for the first 2 years, I think the structure is what's helped me keep on track. I've really enjoyed the differences in terms of the different modules, meeting the different lecturers. I think it's really great to have the different experiences that they bring and they share in terms of their knowledge. And I think for me, I'm a person who kind of likes a list, and I think being able to tick things off and feel like you're making progress was really, really important to me. So I've obviously completed all my smaller assignments, and I've completed my larger assignments. And the other thing that was really, really important for me, and what attracted me to this program, is that I want to be publishing as I do my PhD. So 2 out of the 3 of the articles that I wrote, I've had published. I've got 1 with a journal at the moment. So I feel like in 2 years, I've already achieved a huge amount that I wouldn't have achieved if I'd done a standard PhD. And also it's kind of massively built my confidence, because I think sometimes when you've moved from one kind of background to another, I think I felt that I didn't really know if I was a researcher or not. And I never wanted to call myself an academic because I didn't really feel like I was one. And so this program really gave me confidence in terms of kind of my research and developing my research. So the first 2 years have been brilliant. And now I'm moving on to the next section, which has been great so far. It's different, but the first 2 years, I think that structure is what's really been absolutely invaluable to me.
Thank you very much, Francine. I think you gave really good overview of the program. So thanks. Do you want to talk a little bit about your study, because you kind of went into your dissertation stage right now? What are you studying right now?
So yeah, so obviously I've got a law background, as I said, but I'm really very interested in legal education. So my thesis is around graduate attributes and looking at them from perspectives of legal academics, from legal employers, and those newly qualified and trainee solicitors. So I'm at the very early stages. I'm just starting to collect my data at the moment, doing kind of my reading, my literature, and sort of grappling with what kind of theories I'm going to use and stuff like that. But it's been really, really interesting. And what I was able to do is some of the pieces that I wrote in part one, I was able to use some of that to kind of explore those ideas that I had about what would I do my thesis on, because I wasn't really very sure what I wanted to do it in. So I felt that part one gave me that really good opportunity to look at different aspects of legal education, so I could really kind of think about, well, what actually do I want to spend 2 years thinking and writing about. So that was really invaluable to me.
Thank you so much. All right, so I may move on to the next question then. So we have Lucy, who just started. So Lucy, could you please share your experience as well? And particularly your cohort and yourself has been strongly impacted by current situation of COVID-19. So it will be really interesting for you to share, because when you walk in the program, apparently you kind of expect the program to be running face-to-face 4 times a year, but suddenly after first nice face-to-face residential, you had to move online. So if you kind of stress a little bit of that and how we handle that as from your students' perspective, that will be very useful to know too.
Yeah, sure, because it isn't exactly what I thought I was going to be doing this time last year when I applied. But nevertheless, yeah, I'll definitely speak to that. But just to kind of follow on from what Francine's just been speaking about, I think you've described, Francine, many of the kind of things that I found really attractive about the programme and why I applied for this particular programme. Having the year prior to applying for the DPER, I'd got a place on a conventional PhD programme that would have taken me 7 years to do part-time. And it was a project that I could see how I wanted to do it, but I wouldn't have been able to keep the momentum on that project for 7 years, and that was in an arts practice. So for me, I thought I wanted to do something in educational research, but I wasn't entirely sure how I could start a doctorate in a field where I didn't feel like I knew enough about that field yet to be able to come up with a novel inquiry. So when I heard about this programme where I'd be given the support and the kind of modular structure to take me through exploring topics before I come up with an inquiry in 4 years part-time, I thought that seems like a much more effective way of proceeding through my studies. So that's what kind of attracted me to it this time last year when I applied and got the place. And I remember feeling really nervous, having a kind of very brief interview with Yanya, thinking I'd be tested, and it wasn't at all. It was to determine whether I would be more suitable on the educational research programme or the social justice programme, because my background and all my research and work is all very clearly in the realm of social justice. But as I explained to Yanya at that point, I kind of felt like a lot of the issues that we're constantly battling with, social justice issues, and mine in particular is to do with racial inequalities, are systemic. And unless we kind of understand the whole institutional and contextual framework in which these inequalities exist, we're never really going to be able to tackle them. So that's why I wanted to do the educational research programme. But yeah, I signed up for a course that I thought was going to be for face-to-face or physical face-to-face residentials per year in Lancaster, and I live in London, so for me part of the appeal was to go to a campus-based university in the northwest of England where I could have lovely walks. And on my first residential in January, I had lovely walks, and we really experienced Lancashire culture and weather, which was a surprise and shock to the international students as well. And it was lovely, and I'm so glad that we had that experience, because we didn't know that lockdown was going to happen and that we wouldn't be able to meet face to face for the following 3 residential. So this week, September, the first week of September, is a residential, and I'm currently doing it from home on my van, which is where I am now, because lockdown has thrown us into circumstances where we're struggling with bandwidth. I have unreliable bandwidth indoors, so a lot of the sessions I've been I've been present, but I haven't been able to physically show my face, you know, and that's frustrating because so much of our communication is, you know, through our faces, and I miss that aspect. But having built up such a good rapport with the rest of cohort 25 back in January, and we really did, well, at least I felt like we really cohered as a group in that week, that it's kind of set us up for that kind of subsequent engagement. There are a few cohort members that I felt like I haven't seen since then properly online. I've seen them in a Moodle thread, but I haven't seen them like this. But there's kind of a core of us, and what's been really helpful in supporting that is not only the way that the residentials have been set up with synchronous and asynchronous activity. That's all been really helpful. Intense, but what I would expect from a PhD study on part-time mode, and when we have the residentials we have to really apply ourselves. In between the residentials, especially during the lockdown period, one of the module leaders, Anne-Marie, was also offering additional study days, which were completely optional, non-compulsory, and I was in a good position to be able to attend those, and I found them so helpful. You know, we're not getting taught anything, but it's just to help you to develop those skills in self-direction and discipline that you need to be effective learners, and to keep in touch with people. And that's, I think, another main attraction of this is that we're learning together and all interested in our very different topics, but we learn, and we are not just learning about our subjects and about research methods, but learning how to be researchers and navigate courses on top of crazy lives, you know, and everybody's lives, because of the impact of COVID, have become increasingly difficult.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm not really sure whether you actually stop your talk or it's just your event which stopped you, but you can come back anytime when you're ready. But for now, let's say thank you. So one of the things that Lucy has pointed out for those who are not familiar with the program is that this program going on the using the Cohort system, which means that you walk in, and rather than you doing your PhD all by yourself with your supervisor, actually you have really nice group of people who start and go through the same structure with you over those 3-4 years that until you complete the dissertation and then got your PhD degree. I think that's a really important part of this program, which we give a really supportive community, and then that's all sense of, as Lucy explained, that's also sense of the belonging and having each other together. Even going through this COVID, that's probably has the power of the program. So that's what you're trying to say, Lucy, right? Did I get it right? So thank you so much. So shall we move to next speaker, Jen, here. So Jen, so you've been teaching on the program, but as I mentioned, you graduate from the program. So I don't know, you have a lot to say, I guess, but probably let's just focus on how you felt as a student and how you kind of feel about the program right now as a teacher. So is there any kind of dramatic shift in your perception about the program? You like it more or less? Anything that you can say about your identity, that would be great.
Well, I absolutely loved the program as a student, and it's a dream come true to actually be teaching on it. I can't believe my good fortune some days. So there's a lot of things about the program that I feel common in both roles. I think the first one would be that it's such an intellectually rich and rewarding experience. So even though this is not a traditional PhD, it is a full PhD in every single way, and it requires that level of commitment and that level of intellectual engagement, and that's really important. But I think what I really like about the approach on DPER is that it's very strongly informed by there's no one way to do a PhD, and there's no one way to do this program. That as a student, I really benefited from being encouraged to pursue my interests in my own way. And that's what we do for students now. And there's endless opportunities for what you research, how you research, what theoretical influences come in, what literature, what approach, what structure your thesis is. They don't all have to look the same. They all have to have a strong academic foundation. But beyond that, there's this variety. And that's not scary, because that might sound, oh gosh, no, I like the structure. Well, you have the best of both worlds, because you have the structure of the program, and then you have this amazing support network of both your cohort and the staff. And so it enables you to take these chances and explore these different options. And I think what I felt as a student was that even though I felt as a student that every single staff member cared about my PhD. And I think that is a real ethic of the program, and something we try to do now too. All of our students are different, and yet we care about those. We embrace the enthusiasm they have for their research. I don't mind supervising someone who may not be exactly matched onto my own research, because I get to participate in their world and learn new things, and it's incredibly stimulating. And I suppose the final thing I would say about the two roles is that there is sometimes a bit of a challenge, because I love the program so much as a student. I have to be really careful of not having this golden age view that the program now has to be just as it was when I was a student, because that was so good, so that's the only right way. And that's not the case. Our students are changing, our students are diverse, the program evolves and changes. But I think a real strength is that we've embraced change, and yet we have some core values, which are about intellectual challenge, strong student focus, and being very, very caring. And I think those have lasted over a lot of years, and we're committed to them for forevermore.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, can you... so, I mean, I have a question here in a way that, do you want to introduce a little bit about your research? I mean, are you researching the things that you had done actually as a student, or have you changed your research interest over time? So how DPER helped you to shape your current research interest?
Oh, DPER was really, really influential, because when I started, I had a fairly, I don't want to say pedestrian, but I had a pretty ordinary view. I was going to do something which I thought was very practical for my job at the time. And I started doing that, and yet I just started to get interested in other things. And well, I suppose I still had the original interest, but it then developed. And then I found myself engaging a lot more with very theoretical approaches, with critical theory, and with issues of social justice. And I was encouraged at every step by every one of my tutors to do that. And even though these weren't necessarily their interests, although they had some interest, they really encouraged me to do that. So in the end, my thesis is a real part of me. It's not just a piece of research that might be useful. It's really personal, and I hope useful. And it definitely laid the foundation for my academic career. My thesis became my first book. Like Francine, I published as I went. I was strong about doing that. And actually, my best publication, my most cited publication to this day, is one from the doctoral program. So that's quite nice. And certainly, yes, it gave me a confidence and a sense of having my own voice in the world of higher education research. And then it's very much then informed what I do today.
Thank you. That's such a beautiful answer. Great. So when it comes to caring, as you point out, Jen, I think we have a person here, Alison, who unbelievably remembers every single student's name and what they're doing. I mean, when I had a conversation with you, Alison, I was shocked, like how you know everyone. I mean, it's for me that just come and go. But anyway, so you're the person who is overseeing entire program with a lot of students in very different stage of their career as well as their study progression. At the same time, there are many of us are international, have international students too. So how do you manage that all? And can you just tell us a little bit about how your just daily routine is? Like when you wake up in the morning, what you do with your 24 hours and how you can take care of everyone?
Oh gosh. Yeah, well, in a sense, there isn't a typical day, but a lot of the time it's paperwork behind the scenes and emails, an awful lot of emails. But it's being there for the students and giving them a really good standard of support is the thing, and looking after them and finding the best way through the program for them, because everybody's sort of mid-career professionals. They have very busy work lives, very busy home lives. They go through all sorts of things in their journeys on the program, and it's always been a sort of goal to get them there and support them, and if they have to take time out on intercalation, organising that and taking all the stress out, trying to sort of take the stress out of it for them. So it's about giving as best service as possible, and I love the programme and everybody on it. So it's a very special programme, and hence why I'm still here, I think. And yes, I remember everybody. I've had students ring up and say, oh, I'm so and so and so and so from Cohort, and I go, oh yes, yeah. They just staggered, I think, that. But you know, I meet everybody. Well, I get familiar with everybody before they ever arrive, and then I'm meeting everybody over 4 years for the week-long residentials, and then they're shorter residentials in part 2, but a lot of people, you know, try and get to those. And in the early days, it was much more a UK-based group, and so people did come. You know, year 4 was not mandatory, but everybody kind of came along, and so I was seeing people for 4 years. It's a little bit different now. There's more flexibility with part 2, and everything's done in a slightly different way, but yeah, so I remember everybody. It's lovely. And you might need to ask the other question again, because it's that's gone out of my head for the moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Alison. I just want to read this from the text chat from Jen. So Jen says, basically she's here, but I'll read it on behalf. So I wouldn't have a PhD today if not for Alison Sedgwick, and I'm far from the only one. She's the program superstar. It's a little bit cheesy that we do it by ourselves, but I hope that at least people can see how we feel the same way about each other in the program. So yeah, I'm still wondering about your daily life, Alison, but we can probably move on to the next set of questions. We can see you're talking to a lot of students one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
All right, so I do have another set of questions that I prepared, but I already said it would be really nice to get some questions from the audience, who we really appreciate for you to take time and be here, at least in person, although remotely. So do you have any other comments or kind of question related to DPER or anything? That will be lovely to hear from you. All right, Brett, I think you can just turn on the mic and ask question by yourself. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm Brett Bligh, and I'm a member of staff in the department. I have occasionally taught on this program, although I'm not doing so at the moment. But one of the things that struck me about this program very quickly, which was very different from what I'd experienced elsewhere, was the cohort system, and people have mentioned that in passing. Now, I didn't have that when I did my PhD, And I've taught on these PhDs, but of course that makes me a teacher, not really a full member of the cohort, right? So I wonder if any of our speakers would care to say something about how valuable they find the cohort system and what their experiences are of talking and being a part of the same cohort with people over what's really quite an extended period of time.
Thanks for a question. Okay, I can see Francine, you unmuted yourself. That means
so
go on.
I'm part of cohort 23, which is actually quite a small cohort, I think. But to say that I got lucky would be an understatement of the century. We're called the Magnificent Seven. There's actually only 6 of us now, but we started with 7. We're now 6, and they're people that I would call my friends now. They have been absolutely invaluable. We have been through quite a lot as a cohort. We've had quite a lot of tragedy in our cohort, which has been really difficult. But I think part of this experience has been able to help and support the people through that process. And I think that's one of the really defining features of this program is the cohort system. I think I like to call it, sort of jokingly, like victim support, so that when you're having a bad day and you're not quite sure what you're doing and you don't really understand what you've been asked to do, or you're just really scared because people are using very big words and you don't know what they mean, I think having that support from other people who go, oh my gosh, no, I don't understand what they're talking about either, makes you feel so much better. But also, I think the other thing is that experience of having people from different backgrounds has been really, really helpful. So, I'm a lawyer, but I've got colleagues who are in nursing, in health, from Ireland. And I think they bring that experience, and I think that enriches the programme, that you have that diversity of experience and shared understanding and knowledge. And you learn so much from each other. And that support that you get through that, we have a WhatsApp group, we chat, now obviously not attending face-to-face, but one of the joys of coming to face-to-face tutorials was not just seeing Alison and the staff, but was also meeting up. And I think that is such an important part of this program, and I think it's what gets a lot of people through. We've always talked about, we want to all kind of get through this together, and we will help each other to get through it together. And I think when you're doing it by yourself, and with somebody who teaches in a distance university, and it is hard to build that. I think one of the things about this program is that it's been fantastic at building that community, and it's the community and the support that gets you through when you're having a bit of a difficult time. So I think it's hugely important.
Thank you. Lucy?
Yeah, yeah, just totally the case. And especially going through this experience of moving from physical residentials to online, it's been helpful having that cohort experience. But even just that aside, from this very small things like not understanding, all of the things we need to do for a week, just checking in with each other on those little things that if you feel confused about them and you're already feeling a bit stressed because you're managing so much, those little things can become really stressful. So just having a group that you can just reach out to, ask really simple questions like that, it's just, yeah, it's great. And that everyone else is, trying to juggle things and manage things. Instead of WhatsApp, we set up a group using the Microsoft suite called Kazila, so that people in certain regions could also still be part of the group. And that's been working really well. Some good friendly banter in there and sharing of articles. But the other thing that I've been really enjoyed is the kind of getting to know other cohorts as well. And it was a bit of a surprise to me that for the RLTA, the Research Learning, Teaching and Assessment Unit, we've been doing that with the cohort above us. And that's been really valuable. I haven't got to know too many of them, but just hearing how they're approaching projects, what they've learned from their first year experience, that's been, yeah, really, really good. And similarly for Anne-Marie study days, I've been meeting people from other programs and people who are in their thesis stage, which is always really scary. You think, oh my God, how am I ever going to get to that point? But it's also really insightful. You think this is really good to know, what people in stage, 3 and 4 are doing and managing. Yeah, so yeah, good question, Brett. It really is a valuable part of the experience.
Thank you, Lucy. I think we have Hannah who is here. Hannah, do you want to add some?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm actually from the Middle East and I'm from Cohort 20. And answering Brett's question, the cohort system is one of the best parts of this program, and we really had a very good time, not just academically, but also we have, like our cohort, we did have a lot of fun. Like every time when we came, we did take one day off to go around for a picnic. So we went to Blackpool. I don't know what the other places. So every time, so for a person like me, it did help me to see many places around also. So that in that way, the cohort system really helps, and academically also it does help a lot. It support, we are supportive of each other. We have a WhatsApp group, so we share things, and if someone is down, or someone is not has not done it, we call each other, support. So the best part of this program is really the cohort system. Yeah.
Thank you, Hannah. Great to hear from you. Yeah, so we have Ronnie here. Ronnie, I mean, you wrote there, so you're from cohort 6. So I don't know about your situation right now, but do you think that you can unmute yourself and actually talk that comment with your own voice, please?
Hi, I'm traveling in a car, so my internet isn't too stable. But yeah, just to really repeat what Jan has said and Francine, that the cohort system is an amazing support. I know other people who were doing their PhDs at the same time in other universities, and they were very solitary. They had none of that support. So we also had great fun. It was just super to be able to sit down at night with a group of people who became friends and have a glass of wine and talk about what we were doing. It was a really intrinsic part of the program. So I loved every single minute, and I still tell anybody that it was the best experience of my life doing that PhD. That's it from me.
Thank you, Ronnie. Where are you going, by the way?
Well, I'm actually traveling from Edinburgh to Preston.
Okay, great. Have a nice trip. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar as well. All right.
Well, I'm just about to pass Lancaster, and it always gives me a warm feeling in my heart.
We have sun here, Ronnie. Good for you.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'll mute.
Thank you. It was really good to have someone from cohort 6. That was like, what, 20 years ago? Or wow, that's really, it's nice to have you again, Ronnie. All right, so shall we just move to next question set? But so next question I prepare is, what is your favorite element of the program other than other than course system? Because I think we heard enough of course system now. You got to have something else than course system you really like. So so I'll invite our 4 panel members here, the participants. Feel free to go ahead. So who's going to talk about your another favorite things about the program, please?
Will I go?
Yes, please, Jen.
Okay, so yes, I did have the cohort system down, but I'm not to talk about it, but I echo everyone else's things. So the other thing I was going to say that I think is the best thing about it is the structure, because I think it's a really clever structure, and it has 3 core modules. For each of those you write one paper that's a journal article, and as Francine said, many of us go on to publish those, which is fantastic. The program has an amazing record of publications, and then you have 2 support modules, and both types of modules are equally important, and they work like a tapestry together that makes this really rich and interesting, mutually supportive academic experience. And I think that's a real strength of it. And and I think, as I've already said, I think the publishers you go for anyone working in higher education, that makes this program so great, because as Francine said, get to the end of 2 years and you've maybe have 2, maybe more publications in top journals. That's just not going to happen on a part-time trad route. Well, it might, but it would be a lot harder, you know, so.
I also think it's the discipline of it as well, that because you're doing it, because of the structure gives you the discipline. And we're all, most of us, I'm sure, are doing, you know, working and have kids and families and other responsibilities. And I think the discipline of coming every 3 months makes you do stuff. And, you know, I'll be quite candid and say there were times in between where I did very little. And then like a week before, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I need to go and do X, Y, and Z. And I think that it keeps, the discipline keeps you going every 3 months is really important. And also the discipline in the sense that you have to write something. I wouldn't have produced 3 journal articles if I was just doing my job, because I would always find something to put it off, or there would be always some teaching would always get in the way. And this makes you have the discipline of doing stuff, and it makes you write, and it pushes you. And I think you don't have the excuse not to do something. When you're doing a traditional PhD, you might not, obviously you are writing, but you might do a lot of that period of time where you're doing your literature, you're doing your data, whereas this gets you to write straight away, which I think, particularly if you are relatively new to sort of academic research, but you've got a professional background in something else, that's the thing that you're kind of scared of putting your ideas out there. And this is what this program makes you do. It makes you actually put your ideas out there, give it to somebody and get some feedback, which is absolutely invaluable. And I think that discipline and that making you write is such a huge part of this program. I think that what makes it so important those first 2 years.
Yeah, I could expand on those two, because yeah, cohort structure and the kind of the prompting to write continuously, and the support for that is really, yeah, is great. And I think in terms of favourite, I think there's so many aspects that I really enjoy about the course. But I think the learning and being exposed to so many different aspects of educational research in very multidisciplinary sense, I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of. And kind of speaking to that kind of the structure that previous speakers have spoken about, it's something like a seed might be sown in one of the support units that you've written like a 1,000 word paper for, which you know, you wouldn't have invested as much time in as your 7,000 word, and you might think, okay, I've done that, put that to bed, you know, and then it can come up again and you think, oh, actually it's just a possibility for many things to kind of take shoot, if you like, to kind of encourage you to go in directions you might not have before. Yeah, that's certainly the experience that I'm having at the moment.
Great, thank you. Alison?
Favourite element of the programme, meeting everybody and looking after everybody. And you know, I get to know people before they even arrive on day one, because they inquire about the programme. I've spent many a sort of 30-minute conversation talking about the programme, and they've gone away enthused. And so you get everybody on day one, and it's 4 years of residentials, and it's fantastic. And people come to Lancaster, and it has been described as a home from home, and everybody comes and they feel sort of welcome, and then seeing their cohorts, and you know, a lot of people have flown in from overseas. A lot of the recent cohorts have had a bigger element of international students. And the bonds are quite fantastic, and it's lovely to see and work with everybody.
Lovely, thank you. Lucy, are you raising your hand there?
Yes. So I just wanted to say, actually, just as Alison said that, I thought, oh my God, how could I have forgotten to say that an element that I absolutely love about this, especially our particular cohort, is how international it is. Like this morning, I was in a webinar with colleagues in Qatar and India, speaking about, you know, relationships that their university has with the UK, and speaking about the kind of geopolitical situation and context in which higher education takes place. It's fabulous, you know. So not only am I learning about the kind of sector more internationally from the literature, I'm learning it firsthand from practitioners in the field, and what we have in common amazes me, and makes you realise just how much is quite similar in higher education on a global level, but also just the slight differences as well, to kind of learn about those kind of contextually specific ways in which like higher education policy plays out, for example. Yeah, it's a great part. I'm loving that.
Thank you. I can see, Jan, you unmute yourself. Is it for adding on, or you're being unmuted? I mean, that's fine. All right, so thank you very much. So we're going to go into the memory part now. So we're going to start from new member, because Alison and Jan, you may need more time to think about memories, but I want everyone to talk about the most favorite memory or most surprising memory you have had in the program so far. So Lucy, are you ready? You can say either one of the best favorite memory, or surprising moment, or embarrassing moment, whatever. So give us more, like, you know, real life sense of how your experience is.
Oh, I think a moment that sticks in my head is from the cohort that the residential that we had in person in January, when we were all able to be in Lancaster, and Anne-Marie, one of our module lecturers, for one of her classes, we did a group photo. And there are so many of us, there's like 20 plus in our cohort. We're a big cohort, and it was just a giggle. It was a giggle, you know what it's like taking photos, group photos. It always takes a lot of time, there's a lot of shuffling, there's a lot of like pulling faces, and so I just remember it being a funny occasion. But also, we've now got a lovely photo on as the banner of her module page that I look at. I'm like, oh look, these are these people. And especially now that we are so far apart and we don't get to see each other physically, it's just a really nice reminder. Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to update that photo in a year's time.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Lucy. That's really lovely. I feel like crying. I don't know why. Really, let's fingers crossed. Let's update that photo.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. So we've got more than one photograph. So we've got kind of photographs that Anne-Marie's taken each time we've been. So I think we have 8 photographs now. And it is a lovely reminder. And Anne-Marie makes us do very silly things. So we had to do something where we all had to go and find things on campus. I can't remember what the activity was about. It was very bizarre and very random and very, very funny. And I think, you know, when you talked about, I think Jan mentioned about the caringness of the staff, that's what is so lovely, and that's what the memories are, is that everybody is really sweet and kind, and everybody's really approachable. I remember Hugh, who's one in my cohort, asking Alison if he could have some fruit, because he loved the biscuits, but he felt he was eating too many biscuits. And so Alison produced loads of fruit each time we used to come. So it's the fact that people are so approachable and always take the time, you know, to talk to you and send you really lovely emails. I think it's all of that. It's that kind of community that the programme builds through all aspects of it, and I think that's represented in the photographs and the memories that we will all take away from it.
Oh, that's great. That's really great. Francine, do you remember what kind of stuff you had to go and find on campus?
It was really weird. One of my colleagues, Hayley, ended up in the chapel with a set of rosary beads for us all, which was quite strange. We had to take photos, and I can't even remember what it was about. It was about something to do with your outside space and finding things, but it was a bit like you probably don't remember, you might not know about this, Kyungmee, about something that used to be called Challenge Annika, and you had to go and find things and bring them back. It was a bit like that, but in only the way that Anne-Marie could deliver it, because nobody else would have been able to keep a straight face and make us go off and do totally bizarre things. But it was, I guess part of it is that kind of breaking of the ice and kind of making you do stuff that you think, oh, you know, particularly British people who feel terribly embarrassed by doing anything that's slightly strange. But it was just very, very funny. And yeah, we ended up with a whole, if you ask Anne-Marie, she probably has got still the things that we collected, because she kept quite a lot of them, but they were all very strange things.
Yeah, next time I see her, I'm going to ask that. But are you really sure that you're talking about a PhD program, not nursery or preschool? That's lovely to have that balance. All right, thank you so much for both of you. So Jen, I think you're little short, you have a shorter span of life on program than Alison. So can you tell us the best memory you have?
Yeah, well, combined with teaching and studying, I go back 16 years with this program, so I have a lot of very fond memories. I'm going to share my absolute favourite, and it's when I first taught on the program and I'd taken over someone else's module, and it was a big cohort, it was a double cohort, and there was a man who sat at the back who was really, really unimpressed by the readings and the sort of language we're using and the pretentiousness of the theory. And he just kept interrupting and he kept challenging it. And, you know, but it was actually really wonderful because, to his credit, he never disengaged. He just kept challenging us. And that was really good. So we had to keep saying, well, okay, is there a better reading to this? Is there something else? And because he was challenging but engaging at the same time, you saw this enormous change over time. And then he suddenly found little corners of this theory which really related to him. Now, we don't expect everyone to take on every idea, because that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be that we give you this smorgasbord and then you pick out the little tasty morsels that work for you. And that's what he did. And he ended up writing a really quite theoretically difficult thesis, but applying it to his very practical area. And when I saw him on graduation day, and he had his floppy hat and his gown, and he was beaming with pride, and I thought about those early residentials where he nearly just dropped out because we frustrated him so much. And it's all to his credit that he stuck with it. But it always just shows too how much you learn from students who don't agree with you and how much they bring to the program. And I think we strengthened because of his experience. But it was an absolute delight to see him graduate. It was wonderful.
Thank you. It's really, do you want to add one more as a student? It's really good memory, but.
Okay, as a student, I'll just pick a silly one. I'll pick the day we had, because the cohort system was really, in my day, we tended to all stay in halls of residence together. And we would, you know, make spag bowl and drink red wine. And then we would have special events. So we had a burn supper, and Malcolm Tite and Paul Trowler both came along to our burn supper, and they both were matching black leather jackets. But anyway, all of us, our whole cohort, and those two, and then some other person who's now left, were all crammed into a tiny student kitchen, drinking whiskey max and eating, and it was just so much fun. It was just lovely.
Thanks for sharing that. That sounds really good. So that was happening during residential, right? Yeah, that tells a lot about us. Alison, do you have great memories? I do believe that you have many, but can you pick one?
Oh gosh, yes, there are so many, and it's just incredibly difficult to sort of pick one out. In the early days, I used to take everybody to dinner once a week, and so it was lovely. Not just to be there as a good support for everyone, but then to go out and socialise and get to know everybody. Actually, there are some very, I do have some very fond memories, because Miri Saunders was on the programme, and going out to dinner with a group of fantastic people. And Miri Saunders is a very good storyteller, and just having everybody in fits of laughter. So it's the social side, and just seeing everybody at residentials, and I suppose actually getting everybody to that end point, which is a successful Viva, and coming to graduation, and the sort of good memories, the very good memories around things like my first forthwith, and coming up with the forthwith balloon, which is quite fantastic. and yeah, there's just too many good memories, really.
Thank you very much. I mean, I feel I wasn't there in your memories, all of yours, but I feel it. It's very yeah, wow, 25 years is a long time, isn't it? See, have been very successful, but we'll keep going it. So, all right. So this is very last question now that all of you would recommend, we would tell something to the potential students or the people who are thinking at this moment about joining the DPER program. So if you have any recommendation that you can just give, which can be helpful for those who are making decision at the moment, that will be great. So shall we kind of change the order? So shall we start from Alison and Jen and Francine and Lucy?
The residential cohort element is absolutely fantastic. It's different at the moment because people aren't coming to residentials, but the cohort side of it is absolutely fantastic because the community that you step into and inhabit is quite fantastic.
Okay, so my advice would firstly be do it. It's fantastic, you know, but also engage really early on. Use the structure of the modules and of the cohort system to help you, because it's hard to be working and doing part-time study and have life and family. But the other big message is a lot of people, when they start a PhD, get really worried. Oh my gosh, now I have to be an expert. Now I have to know everything. I have to be a PhD. Well, you don't. It's an educational experience. It's a learning experience. That's all at the end. And in fact, you never become an expert. You just keep on learning. So give yourself a bit of a break. Give yourself time to make mistakes, explore things, backtrack, go down another route, and just be open to all the opportunities. So give yourself a break so that you can really enjoy it as a learning adventure. And then you become part of this bigger community. And can I just add to something about that bigger community? Ronnie, who was on earlier, cohort 6, when she found out I'd enrolled for the program for cohort 10, she called me over to meet her, and she spent 2 hours or more with me, talking me through what she'd done, her mistakes, giving me all her feedback. So it really is, it's a community beyond the cohorts. It's bigger than that.
I would say don't be scared about, and don't be kind of worried if you don't feel like you're a proper academic, whatever that's supposed to mean, and engage with the program and use it as an opportunity to publish if you can, if that's part of your requirement of your job. Don't be scared to do that, because actually you're never going to be able to be in such a supportive environment to publish. And you know, to get lots of feedback on something that you've written before you even send it to a journal is incredible, and it makes such a difference. So don't be scared by that, and just be brave and use this as an opportunity to build your publications, because that's an added value, an added benefit of this program. So not only will you get a PhD, but you will also get an opportunity to publish all the way through. And that's I think that's, particularly in academia at the moment, I think that's a really, really important thing to be able to do. So sort of take that opportunity and take that support and publish.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I've come last now in the 4, because you've kind of said everything that I'd recommend to new people. Openness, try to be fearless, because I think, you know, applying even for an MA, let alone a postgraduate, I think it's something that not many people would feel bold enough to do, which it shouldn't be that way, but it probably is that way, because, you know, it's always held up in so much esteem, and I think that can generate a lot of fear in potential candidates, and it's been enough to put me off. You know, I probably could have started a PhD 10 years ago, but a lot of it was kind of fear stopping me, that I'll never feel academically competent enough, especially because I'm from a fine art background. I always feel like, oh, you know, I've never done proper research, you know, that kind of social science research. And now, you know, nearly 1 year into the first year, I'm just so glad that I didn't let that fear stop me this time. So yeah, if anyone's kind of feeling that, this kind of program is supportive, it's structured in a way that you can grow and learn, and you can experiment, as one of the previous speakers has said. and to really come on board to embrace that experimentation, because that's where you're going to kind of find the more innovative sort of ground to take forward.
Thank you very much, all. I think Jen put the message here briefly that although we haven't had extensively talk about the level of feedback we give to our students, but I think that was pointed out well by Francine. So yeah, that's another thing, because we are such a great, we feel very safe in this community as Cohort, and then as like academic community. So although we get quite harsh feedback, we feel good about getting feedback from each other. I think that's such an important thing to point out.
Can I just say about the feedback that it is
Sure.
incredibly constructive? I mean, I think it's really scary when I think Lucy made the point about, do you feel like I don't know, what does writing at PhD level mean? And it's such a hard thing it's so intangible. And all the feedback I've had from every single person that colleagues that I've worked with on the programme has been incredible. And it's always been really constructive. It's been really helpful. It doesn't pull any punches, but not in a way that it's really supportive, and it helps you, and it makes you grow, and it makes you get better. And it really is part of the learning. And I think that's one of the really, I remember the first thing I wrote for Gemma, and, I got like 2 or 3 pages back of stuff and what I wrote afterwards was so much better because of what she told me. And it wouldn't have been as so good if she hadn't have given me that feedback, but it was really constructive. And I think that's what's so important about this programme, is that the feedback, and you can go and ask people, and you can run your ideas past people before you even have to submit anything. And that way of getting feedback, preliminary feedback, and then getting feedback on when you've sent the final piece as well, that you can see your own journey in terms of where you've gone and how you've developed your ideas and things like that. And I think that's a really important part of the programme. And also it makes you realise that you can do it. I think sometimes you always think, oh, can I write at PhD level? But if you've actually written something and someone said, yeah, that's all right, then you think, wow, that's amazing. And then it gives you the confidence for the next one and the next one. So I think that's a really important part of it.
Thank you so much. So as just to audience, as you watch this video or you're here, see we're here for you ready. So if you're interested in expanding your knowledge, and if you're working in higher education but are wondering about the ways in which you can improve your research skills, or even you want to improve your practice, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in pursuing PhD, I mean, we're here. You saw just all enthusiasm we have here and expertise. I mean, 25 years we've been doing this, so we know what we're doing. So I think this can be really lovely program. So we're great to have you. If you have any question, again, you can just email us, me, Jen, and Alison, and I'm pretty sure Lucy and Francine all happy to give you any answers, even Roni. So, all right, so I will say goodbye to everyone. Probably we can unmute ourselves and then just say goodbye to each other and thank you each other with our voice. That will be great. And then we can finish here.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye for now. See you soon.
Bye, everyone. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you, Roni.
Bye. Lovely to see you all.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you, Ronnie.
Yeah, you too, Ali. Bye. Bye.